about to see a conversation that I had with a former college student of mine named Bianca. And our main theme that we landed on in the conversation is trusting the process while you're going through so many changes in life. And that's a theme that I'm sure so many of us can relate to, whether it's switching our major like Bianca did. She also switched roommates. She got married at the end of college and eventually moved out of state. I think many of us can relate to being in that process, being challenged to trust the process when it feels like everything in life is changing. And we also landed on a major theme in this conversation of other people's expectations when it comes to making our own choices about where to go to school, what major to major in, what career to pursue. How do we navigate like the expectations that other people might have, and how do we face our own fears about letting people down? That was another powerful tension that Bianca and I talked about when it comes to making those decisions in our lives. And Bianca was also generous to share with us advice that she would have if you are on the cusp of making a decision about where to go to school or maybe even what to major in, what career to pursue. She shares some advice for you, and she also shares some advice, even more specifically, for that transition between senior year of high school and freshman year of college, which can be such a massive transition, I think, for maybe most of us. And if you are someone who's struggling with anxiety around these decisions or around these changes, please know that we do have a signature anxiety program that can help you. It's basically where I've taken my 20 years as a psychologist of doing therapy with teens and college students and packed all of that into the program to help you build skills for that anxiety so that you can move forward with the next steps in your education, in your friendships, in your career as well. So, first step for accessing the program is to share the link below with your parents for our free training. And in the training, I am talking to parents because they tend to be the people who enroll you in the program. But by all means, if you're in high school, you're in college, maybe even younger or older, you're also welcome to watch that training as well, because I'm teaching you 3 keys for overcoming anxiety and also talking about the program. So check that out. And without further ado, here's the conversation with Bianca. Hello, Bianca. So great to see you, and welcome to the YouTube channel for being our guest.
Thank
And yeah, and I always start these conversations just by giving kind of a context for people who maybe this is their first time watching a conversation like this on our channel. But for anyone who's watching this, although I am a psychologist and I've been doing therapy with teens and college students for about 20 years now, Bianca is not my therapy client. This is not a therapy conversation. This is for educational and research purposes only. But
you.
yeah, it's just a conversation between the two of us as people. So welcome, Bianca.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, so happy to have you. And I don't know, I was thinking where we should start. And where should we start? How we know each other, maybe?
Yeah,
Okay. How do we know each other, Bianca?
I don't know what year, but somewhere in my undergrad, I had switched from biology to being a psychology major, and I remember I had some male professor for like my beginning first like intro to psychology class, and then I think I had you the second psychology class I had, and that's when I started getting more and more interested in psychology. And I think it was during the time I had you as a professor at Vanguard that I was able to switch over to my other major. So I felt very invested in your classes because it was finally what I wanted to actually do. So I've always said you were one of like my favorite professors because I just felt like I
Mm.
learned a lot. So, very grateful for everything that you taught me and the rest of my colleagues.
Oh, well, thank you for saying that. I feel really honored um, hearing you saying that. And I know before this call we were talking about how there's this theme for you in undergrad of just going through so many changes. You mentioned switching from being a bio major to a psych major. Had you declared biology as a major? This would have been before I met you, so I actually didn't quite
Yeah,
this. You had declared biology as a major, so you like made the
yeah,
decision.
yeah. So throughout high school, well, since I was little, I've loved the ocean and had this obsession for like Little Mermaid and mermaids in general and the ocean and dolphins. So I was like, I'm going to be a marine biologist. Like, that's just what I'm going to do. But I knew I wanted to go to a Christian university because I went to public schools all my life. So I told my mom, like, I want to go to a private university, but Christian. And because there was no marine biology there, I had people tell me, "We'll do biology, and then from there you can like do the extra courses or go somewhere else to do the actual marine part." And so I was like, oh, "Okay," but I knew nothing about biology or really was like interested in the science part. I was just like, I just want to swim with the dolphins, not knowing it was much more than that. So my first, obviously the first year, freshman year, I had to take like all those prerequisite classes, and psychology was one of them. And I did have a couple extra classes for biology, and I realized I was doing really bad in my biology classes, and I wasn't enjoying it. But then with the intro to psychology class, it was like my heart like lit up and there was more of this passion. And I was like, this is interesting because this has nothing to do with marine biology.
Mm.
Yeah, I was like, uh-oh. Um, and I started like asking questions and talking to my biology professors who still to this day, like I'm really grateful for them for even being like, it's okay. It's okay that you are have a heart for something else. And after talking to them, they were asking me like some questions about kind of to test me on if I liked the biology stuff. And they're like, I don't think you like this. And I was like, no, I don't. And so I think I still completed the whole freshman year, but then sophomore year, I spoke with somebody who could, I don't remember who it was actually, but who was able to switch my actual major over. And my concern was because I had told all my family that I was going to be a marine biologist and that this is what I was going to do, including my siblings and my family. And I felt like I was letting a lot of people down on what I said I was going to do. And I was like, well, what if I switch to psychology? And I also don't like that. And then what? So there was a lot of fear into it. And I didn't know if it was going to affect like credits and stuff. But basically, it worked out great because once I did switch over, the classes that I took for biology ended up being my elective classes. So I was able to actually graduate a semester early. So,
Oh, ironic
yeah,
benefit of making a courageous change. Okay.
yeah. So it was awesome to be like, wow, okay, I just had to trust, first of all, in God, and at the same time be like, it's okay. Like, it's okay for me to kind of trust my own instinct and trust where my heart wants to go. And um, it was very helpful to have people along the way like support the fact that they just at the end of the day my family was like as long as you're doing something you love like we would hate for you to do 4 years of college and then go into something that you absolutely don't like to do or fail all my classes, which is kind of what was happening. Not failing, but I had about a C in all of like my biology classes and like an A plus in psych, and I was like, I think
Mm,
that's saying something. So
interesting.
yeah, so that was a big change, and it came with also a separation of kind of being away from, well, I don't know if this is always the case, but you have like the kids who always go to biology classes together. So we kind of become a clique. And then there's the psychology clique, or kids who always go to the same classes, especially if you're in the same grade. So that was a little hard at first because everybody I met my first year were biology students, and I was one. I think there was like two other kids who actually switched also to psychology, but to know that I didn't always see them anymore, and it kind of was a transition for me to meet people in the psychology program because everybody already had friends. So I was kind of like, I don't know who I'm going to be friends with, but it worked out and I met friends on both programs. So it was amazing to kind of understand both perspectives and be able to meet both the professors from the biology program and also the psych program. So it worked out amazing overall.
Yeah, okay, so you kind of I don't know if it's fair to say you got the best of both worlds, but, like, you still were able to have connections, it sounds like, with professors and friends in
Yeah.
biology, and then start to connect with professors and friends in psychology.
Yeah.
And so switching your major also involved a lot of changes in terms of who you were connected with and your relationships on campus. And I was wondering if it's okay if I take one step back to something you were saying.
Yeah.
It sounded like a difficult part of changing your major was that you had maybe, I'm assuming, somewhat excitedly told your family that you were going to be swimming with the dolphins as a marine biologist.
Yeah.
Which ironically, that was actually one of my dreams as a child was to just like swim with dolphins all day for my career. Not sure how that panned out just yet, but so you had told that to your family, and then this idea of letting people down really stuck out to me. Can you tell us a little bit about what that was like? Like, I'm afraid of letting people down.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that's something that at some point everybody struggles with. And honestly, as an adult, I think I still struggle with it, whether it's letting down my husband or my siblings or even my parents still. Like it was, it's something, it kind of goes, now that I'm thinking about it, it goes all the way back to like since I was born, and just the way I grew up of fear of like being let down. So I didn't ever want to let someone down because I got let down and I don't want to make somebody feel the way I felt. Um so I've always tried to like keep others opinions and opinions and I guess their choice like making it more important than my own. And when I would tell people marine biology, they were like, that is so cool. Like, wow, you're going to
Mm,
swim with dolphins without me taking a moment to be like, yeah, but what's the process going to be like, first of all? And am I going to enjoy it? Which at the moment I did think, like, wow, that's amazing. Like, yeah, I do want to do that. But it wasn't until I actually was kind of in the ball pit of doing the actual classes that I was like, I'm not enjoying this. And I don't know if all of this is going to be worth it for me to swim with dolphins. Not to say that that's not cool, but I was like, I think I could swim with dolphins on a trip to Cancun
you could go
instead
on
of,
vacation and do that.
yeah, I was like, I don't know if I actually, I think one thing I had to really put into perspective too was that's not all what marine biologists do. And there's much more to what they do than swimming with dolphins. So it was more of like a hobby I wanted to do than an actual career. And it just sounded so cool to my family and they agreed to it. And it wasn't like they had a negative opinion. So I was like, oh, well, if they're happy with it, then I'm also happy with it. So let's stick with it.
Mm,
And it wasn't till thankfully I got a lot of clarity once there was a little bit of fear with telling them like, "Hey, I think I'm gonna switch over to psychology," but something I don't really talk about, and nobody's ever asked me to say this, is my mom actually always felt that I was going to be a therapist, and I didn't know this. Um,
Oh, no.
yeah, um, she and it's weird. She's always liked, I didn't know that she also went to therapy a couple times when she was younger, but she always felt that I was a good listener and was able to talk to people well, and she felt that psychology was something I would be good at. But it kind of just went through one ear and came out the other, and I was like, "Oh, okay, like, no, I'm gonna be a marine biologist." So, when I did switch, she kinda was like, "Oh, yeah, well, that's good," and didn't give me much of her opinion, um, which in the moment I am grateful for because if she woulda gave me her opinion, I probably woulda gone with it. But now, like, years later, she's always, like, very supportive, my whole family is, about, like, "Wow, we knew that this was what, God had in mind for you because we always knew, like, you were very talkative and a good listener and wanted to help people that also go through traumatic stuff or just need help with, like, their day-to-day emotions." So, it's crazy, I think my mom got, like, that motherly instinct and kinda knew, like, "You're probably not gonna be a marine biologist." She never actually told me that, but not till years later, she was like, "Yeah, I think psychology was, where you were meant to be." And I'm not a mom yet, so I don't know how that feels to get that instinct, but, there are still some difficult times with it, because even though I'm super grateful with my immediate family being supportive, we also always have that extended family. And coming from a Hispanic culture, therapy is not very known as something that we do because we aren't really allowed to express our emotions. So I never experienced therapy growing up, which is interesting because now I'm a therapist or in the process of becoming a
Mhm.
licensed professional therapist. Um, so when I switched over to this, a lot of my extended family was like, "What is that? And why are you doing that?" And I actually experienced my first time doing, therapy in at Vanguard in college, and at the time of doing my psychology classes and also doing therapy is when I knew this is what I wanna do, and I had to kind of fight through those feelings of, "Is this something my family is gonna accept, or are they always going to make me feel like I'm letting them down doing something that my family doesn't believe is gonna work?" Um, but I really had to put myself first for once and say, this is something I love to do. And I'm going to be the one who's going to do the classes. And I'm the one who's going to be doing this as my career and dealing with everything that comes with it. So it was the best decision I could have made because I do love what I do now. And I'm grateful for the change of switching from biology to psychology because now I'm doing it and I'm very far into the psychology community now, and I love it so much more than biology. And I still haven't swam with dolphins, so hopefully soon.
I mean, Bianca, people do horse therapy. I'm
I
thinking,
know. Dolphin
dolphin
therapy.
therapy. It's very geographically specific, but let's think
Yeah,
about it. And what
it's
you're
possible.
saying makes yeah, what you're saying makes so much sense though. I mean, if we yeah, that theme was really striking me of like the fear of letting other people down when you said that. And it makes sense what you're saying that if you growing up have experiences of being let down and then you carry what that feels like, you can develop a fear of creating that in other people. Even though, technically I like to say we cannot make anyone feel a certain way, but certainly we influence and affect other people.
Yeah.
And fascinating that your mom always had this in her heart.
Yeah.
The moms know, and it's scary. It's scary how the moms know sometimes.
I was like,
But
"Why didn't you tell me this?"
oh, she never told you?
No, not till after I switched.
That is so much restraint and wisdom
Yeah,
on
I
your
think
mom's
she was
part.
Yeah, and I think it was her trying to make sure I chose what thought I wanted, um, but her, like, having this instinct of that's not what she wants or not where she's meant to be, and once I started talking to her about this idea I had of switching over, she was like, "Oh, okay, okay," like, just nonchalantly. And it wasn't until I actually switched over, she was like, "Yeah, this is where you're meant to be." I was like, "Yeah."
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, moms, we see you.
I know.
Yeah. Um, what was I gonna Oh, yeah, and then culturally, right? It must be really difficult to have extended family, especially who are of a cultural background where therapy is not a thing. That can feel very stigmatized, and so going to therapy in and of itself is a big step, but then to then say, "This is what I'm doing with my major and then with my career," that must yeah, I really feel the tension of that.
Yeah, but at the same time, something very recent that happened, very recent, like this past 2 weeks ago, um, as I had told you before, we started recording, I did graduate with my master's degree in counseling psychology, and I had my graduation party with my family out in Las Vegas. And I actually had some I now that I'm processing through it a little bit more, I've been processing it a lot the past couple weeks. I had some family members say, "So when are you gonna give me therapy?" And I
Mm,
automatically didn't process that. I was like, "Oh, no, I can't, like, that's not allowed." You know,
mhm,
just like, it really isn't, but joking with them, I was like, "I can refer you to somebody, though." And now thinking about it, even though I was scared in that moment that they were gonna be against what I had decided to do, I think I kinda put a seed into my family, um and oh, I didn't think I was gonna get emotional. Um,
mm,
I think I kinda planted a seed in there for them to be like, "This is probably something a lot of us need." And something that would be really helpful for us because my family has gone through a lot, but I've never been one to be like, this is something you need to do. Like, I really kept it about myself and just how I could help other people. And I would love to help my family, but that's just not what my role is. Like, but to know that if I wouldn't have switched, like, maybe these family members would never have even mentioned something like that, like, maybe this is something that's okay to do. Like, maybe talking to somebody is okay. And my mom has told me as well that we've had family members, ask her, like, "Oh, what is Bianca doing now?" And they don't really, like, know what to say after that. They're just like, "Oh, okay, we're proud of her." But I think the fact that they're asking is because they're probably actually wondering in some way. So it feels nice to know that this is like the start of a little seed being planted, and hopefully I do have family members in the near future who will go to therapy and will I've had family members call me too, like some cousins and say like, "Hey, cuz we have like questions regarding therapy. Can you give us like a worksheet or something
aw,
that'll, help us?" And in that moment, it's just natural for me to be like, "Oh, yeah, here, like, here's this," but not realizing and processing the fact that I am somebody they can go to in that aspect, and that's not common in this culture. So it makes me really happy to know that even though I had to go through that change and make that decision for myself, like, I am actually making a positive impact in my family when at some point I thought I wasn't, and I thought I was gonna be upsetting a lot of people. So it feels really nice to be like, "Okay, I just have to trust the process, definitely trust the process."
just the process, yeah. I have no doubt, Bianca, that you really have planted a seed in your family, and that you've kind of, like, broken into new territory in your
Yeah.
family, because we can understand culturally, like, the framework that people are coming from, and we know as therapists, it's that, um, ethically, we can't do therapy with our family members or with our
Yeah.
friends. For anyone listening, that's why Bianca wouldn't be
Yes.
able to do that, but, so ethically, we have to have our boundaries, and we don't do therapy with our family members or our friends, but, um It just sounds like such a beautiful, powerful seed that you've planted, I think, in many hearts in your family to even be open to like what is that about, you know? And I think sometimes I'm being very general here, but sometimes we think that maybe like the words that we say or a conversation we have with someone is gonna have a positive impact on our family. And that definitely can happen. But you're someone who had the courage to make a decision about the direction of your life. And I think it's your example that's the most powerful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've
Brings up a lot
never
of emotion.
yeah. I've never thought about it that way. I think I've always thought about it like a negative way of, oh, like it's gonna come with a lot of comments and people's opinions. Um, but yeah, it was something I just knew in me that I had to do, and I didn't know it was gonna come with so much goodness from it, and that I was gonna be an example. Um, that it's okay to get help. It's okay to want somebody to talk to and to feel your feelings. Um, so I'm really happy with it and grateful and always open to my family members coming to me and being like, hey, I think this is something I do want to start off with and guiding them in the right direction. Like you said, ethically, I can't do it, and I don't think I would want to because there would be too much of a relationship situation there. Um, but I would be more than glad and happy to um, guide them in the right direction to be like, oh, well, what if, why don't we look at counseling centers or treatment therapy centers together, you know? So yeah, it's been a really good journey up to this point to kind of see that due to that one change I made back sophomore year, the impact it's made up till now and the commitment I've given to it and the love that I have for this community now and my career. Like, I absolutely enjoy what I do. So, yeah, I'm really happy that I made that change. And it's okay to make that change.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say? Like, I'm listening to you and I'm like, this is the ideal, right? That someone can make a change like this.
Mhm.
And then their family would be open to it,
Yeah.
including extended family. I think a lot of young people that I talk with are still in that like fear of being judged by other people.
Yeah.
What are other people going to think? What are other people going to say? Other people have expectations, whether it's family, sometimes friends. What would you say to someone who's kind of on the cusp of, like, I'm thinking of heading in this direction, but I'm afraid of what other people are going to say? I'm afraid of comments.
Yeah. There's always that fine line of not wanting to be selfish, but being a little selfish and caring about what you think and what your opinion is on it and really like digging into your heart a little bit and being like, okay, what is it that I want to do? And do I love it so much that I'll be able to live with that and know that there might be some people who are not in agreement with what I want to do. Um, and really trusting that decision wholeheartedly and trusting the process really. And that was a big statement for me throughout undergrad was I just have to trust. I just have to trust in my choice this time. And if somebody comes to me with their opinion, listen and hear that opinion, but know that I don't have to accept it. And I've learned that a lot with my family of just being like, oh, okay, I respect your opinion. I appreciate your opinion for what it is, but this is what I want and this is my decision. And I've actually gained a lot of respect from my family for responding in that way because they're like, wow, you're not actually like feeling forced to agree with me or and I don't. Like I respect them for giving me an opinion because sometimes even giving an opinion can be scary. So I accept it and then I'm like, "Oh, but this is what I think and this is what I want to do." And then I just walk away. But I would say in that moment of being scared, just trusting yourself. And it takes a lot to do that, but I just trusted in myself and then I trust the process and this is where it's led me. Um, and not to say that there hasn't been family members who either don't know what I do or have kind of blocked it from their mind and been like, there's one person in specific I can think of that she'll ask me all the time, like, "So what are you doing? What do you do again?" And I'm like, "I just told you." And I think it's the not maybe not knowing what I do, like not knowing what this, like, being a therapist means or not wanting to accept it because it's not something that they ever saw me doing. Um, but me just knowing that at the end of the day, I'm the one that's doing it and I'm happy with what I'm doing. And I know I'm impacting a lot of people's lives. And whatever somebody decides to do, as long as they have that feeling of, I love what I do, I think that's what matters. Like, as long as you're doing something you love to do and you're not doing it because your family wants you to do it.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, like when we make a decision about what we're going to major in or what we're going to pursue for a job or for a career, like we can respect and honor and love our family.
Yeah.
They have an input role to
Yeah.
influence us. We have an ownership role of like responsibility for the decision because we're going to be the ones who wake up in our bed in the morning and have the
Do
day to do
that.
what we've decided to do and they don't, and we have to put our pants on one leg at a time and go out and do it, um, unless we're working from home, but
Yeah. Then
sorry,
just a t-shirt and any types of bottoms will be fine.
sweatpants are fine, yeah, but sorry, I can't resist being funny sometimes, but yeah, like at the end of the day we have to own our decision. And what I'm hearing in what you're saying is, like our family has that role of offering an opinion, maybe sometimes offering comments. We can hear them, we can respect them. We can also have the backbone to own what we're going to decide.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really what it comes down to, and just feeling good with what your choice is, and sometimes standing up for ourselves and the choice we made. And like you said, it's going to be what we wake up doing every day. And it's okay to be respectful too and accept other people's opinions, but, or hearing other people's opinions, but not really accepting them if it's not something that you two agree with?
Mhm. Yeah. And we kind of like think on our feet in the moment, I think about, if someone shares their opinion with us, we might just say, "Oh, okay, that's interesting," and I'm going to move on and get an appetizer or something. Or sometimes in the moment, depending on our relationship with that person, we might actually say, "Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, I'd never thought about that. I'm actually really passionate about
A, B, and C.
journalism or
Yeah.
economics or whatever, swimming with dolphins, and that's what I'm going to look into for now."
Yeah.
Um, can yeah, just make that call in the moment. I think in the conversation when there's comments.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
Yeah. Well, we were chatting before we started recording about how, as an undergrad, you went through so many changes, one of which was changing your major,
Yeah.
but there were other changes you also went through as well. Tell us about that.
So like I had said, there's a couple different changes. More that's coming to my mind now as we're
Mhm.
actually diving into it. But I had switched roommates a couple times. And that in itself, with also changing the group of people that I was surrounded by, um, was different. Um, because now I was meeting a whole new group of roommates, which I was really glad, again, trusting the process that had happened because now I've met some of my long term best friends through that process. But once I got to my senior year of high school, I apologize, senior year of undergrad, my now husband, at the time boyfriend, proposed while I was still in undergrad and during that COVID time where I was with my roommate in the dorms. And um, because he's military, we knew that, and we had already been together for, gosh, 6, 7 years at that point.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so we knew that our process of getting married was going to be kind of fast, and we had already been talking about it. And because of the decision I made of switching majors, I graduated a semester early. So we were like, well, let's go ahead and do it. It was, in a way, I'm going to be completely honest, kind of a financial thing because
Mhm.
we wanted to get married first before moving in together. So we're like, let's just go ahead and get married so that we can start looking for our house. But this is all happening during my senior year. So I we got married, and then I ended up moving an hour away from school with my husband. Um, More like California inland, like Riverside area. Well, closer to like Temecula. So about an hour away. Again, trust the process. I
Sure.
went I ended up going, it worked out. I ended up going to campus once a week, um, and doing classes online the rest of the week to finish off my schooling. But the reason I mentioned my roommates is because it was really hard for me to leave my roommates. um, that transition, especially with my husband being military and being busy and moving into a home, at the time, had no pet, had nothing, just my husband. And he's working, and we're trying to figure out what marriage is about as I'm still in school. Like, there was so much change and challenge, and sometimes questions of like, did I rush this? Is this too much? And I've been with him for a long time. So there is that difference though when you're still like when you're with somebody and when you're actually married to them, like you're still learning a lot. So thankfully, a couple months in though, me and my husband got our first dog, and he kept me a lot of company. Because at first I was struggling. I was like, I kind of miss having a roommate that's always here with me. And especially because the year and a half, I believe, before I moved out, it was COVID time. So we were doing our classes together in the dorm, and we were together a majority of the day. But it was so fun because like we'd have to talk to each other and be like, hey, so when does your class hop on? So I know that I have to go somewhere. So like we're not like talking at the same time, or hey, let me know when you mute so that I can talk. So, but it was fun. Like you get used to having that constant company as opposed to when I moved into my house, I was almost always alone because my husband was at work. And so there was that big change in my life. And there was moments I was like, am I even going to finish school? Like, do I have to go into this wife mode now and focus on what it is to be at home and be a wife and be a dog mom and take care of home stuff? Because now I have to manage that and go to school once a week. And the day I go to school, make sure stuff is taken care of at home and I get home fast enough to make dinner or, figure out how to be a wife and a student. And it took a lot of change, a lot of adjustment, but it worked out because I trust the process.
Okay.
And here
That's the end
I
of that. It worked out. Okay. Trust the process.
am. um, but yeah, that was another big change. And I think one other one we talked about, Dr. Park, was um, leaving my family. Um, Freshman year, sorry, I should have talked about this one first, but um, freshman year of college was difficult for multiple reasons. Because even though I told my mom I wanted to go into a Christian university and I knew I wanted to go to California because at the time I wanted to be a marine biologist, um, I had to leave my brother and my sister. And at the time, my brother and my sister were, I want to say about like 5 and 6, 5 and 7, around that age. I can't remember exactly, but they were small. Um, and I had a really close relationship with my siblings growing up. Um, and my dad worked in California and he worked out of town a majority of the time. My parents were married, still are married, but I kind of took on that fatherly role, not because my dad was not a father, but because he was out of town and it was always me and my mom. My siblings kind of just like I kind of took the role of having to teach him some things and having to be that example of, hey, it's okay to do this or not to do this, or kind of teach him a lesson of whatever it was at home, you know? So I took on that role. And then once I graduated, I remember of high school, I remember having that little bit of fear of like, okay, this is what I want to do, but this is going to come with a lot of change because I'm going to have to leave them. And how am I going to explain to them that I love them and care about them, but I'm leaving and not coming back tonight or tomorrow? Like, it's going to be a couple weeks. And I was going somewhere that I'd never been. And even though my dad was in California, he lived about 2 hours away from where I was going to be. And at the time, my boyfriend, who's now my husband, was on deployment. So I knew he was going to be in California and he was going to be about an hour away, but I was stepping away from my family and I was going somewhere I'd never known. Kind of like my transition, moving to my house too, because it was farther away and just always like wherever that change was, like I always had to meet new people or I had to, step out of my comfort zone. And I was doing all this with a lot of emotions and like feelings of hurt of what is my family going to think? Are my siblings going to end up hating me for this because I'm leaving them? But at the same time, having to remind myself that I have to be that role model for them because I'm their older sibling and I want them to know that this is possible, that they can go to college or they can go and do something, with whatever career they want to end up going to. And it was hard freshman year because um, I was still trying to figure out how it was to live in the dorm and meet friends. And at the same time, my mom was constantly messaging me, and we've grown a lot in our relationship. And she's done great. As also, my dad has done great with raising them. But I would always get messages from my mom of like, if only you were here. If only you were here to tell them
So,
this, or if only you were here to help them with homework. And it was a really sucky feeling to get those messages because I'm like 4 or 5 hours away. Like, what am I supposed to do? And I stretched myself very thin to try to be like, oh, let me hop on a FaceTime call and try to help them. And it was affecting me a lot mentally to do that because I was still trying to be this parent figure from far away. And I had to learn to let go of the control. And I had to learn to trust my parents and be like, these are your kids. I shouldn't have to be raising them. This should not be my responsibility. And it's worked out. I mean, there are still times that I'm like, if now I'm learning, like, that's not something I want my kids to know. That's not something I want them to do. And it's comforting to know that I'm gonna have my turn to raise my kids, my actual kids, the way I want to, but now treating my siblings as my siblings
mhm,
and as my brother and my sister and not as my kids. And it's nice because at one point my brother would be like, "Yeah, I'm kinda more scared of you than I am a mom," or, like, "Yeah,
And
you
you
kind
took
of
that as a
are."
compliment or what?
No, no, like,
Oh,
at
okay. I
at the
was like,
time no, at the time, I was like, "Dang, am I really like that? Like, am I taking on this role as your parent when I'm not that? Like, I
oh,
wanna
it was
be a
like shocking
sister."
feedback.
Yeah,
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
I was like, "You're scared of me?" Like, but it was
Mm.
this natural thing in me when for 10 years, I didn't have any siblings, so then when I did, like, at 10 years old, I was all happy that I finally had a brother, and then I had a sister. But then once I got into my teenage years, I was like, I think I have to take care of them. Like, I have to help my mom. Like, that's just what my role is. So I didn't realize the way I was doing it though. Like I thought, well, if my mom is strict with them, then I have to make sure I'm also strict. Or if my dad would, yell at them for this, then I also have to yell at them for this. And I never made that distinction between what it is to be a sister and what it is to be a parent to them when that's not the role that I am or I should be. So it was an amazing thing for me to actually leave because not only did I cherish the moments I actually got to see them so much more, but they're one of my biggest supporters when it comes to what I do and always telling me like, "Sissy, I'm so proud of you." And I'm trying not to get emotional
Mm.
again. um, but they're always like just so proud of what I do and being that role model for them. And my sister actually wants to go to Vanguard. She tells me all the time. She's like, "I want to go to Vanguard like you." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm okay with that. Like if that's what you want, but please know that there's other options too." And kind of goes back to that, I think, instinct. And I don't know if it's like in my culture or in my family where I think because that's the choice I made, she doesn't wanna let me down if she doesn't go there. So
Oh,
yeah,
you're like,
like
I see you.
yes, so I've caught on to that recently, and I've had a conversation with her of like, "Baby girl, if you wanna go somewhere else, that's okay." Like, Vanguard, I mean, it's great, but that doesn't have to be the school you go to if that's not what you want. And I've asked her, like, "Why do you wanna go there?" And she's like, "Well, you went there, and I loved it when I went." And I'm like, "Well, you were 5." So we've had those talks. She's like, "Well, maybe I'll apply to one Ivy League." And I'm like, "Okay, well, we'll see." And she has a couple years to go, but it's me trying to teach them now and be that role model for them of everything I've learned throughout undergrad and throughout my life in general of you don't have to do what you don't have to satisfy other people by making choices that other people made, but also it's okay to leave. Like it's okay to go and explore somewhere and just trust that your family's going to be okay. And that doesn't mean that you're going to abandon them. That doesn't mean that you're no longer going to talk to them because I definitely made time to talk to them. That's something I've always told even my own like clients who are college students right now is you kind of do have to like go and fly and do your own thing, but that doesn't mean making sure that you're setting time aside to talk to your family if that's an important aspect of your life or part of your life and setting time apart to still fuel yourself up with some family time, and maybe video thank you Jesus for there being video calls now and FaceTimes where if there's, an event or something, then you can just be on a FaceTime call and still be there and still say hi to everybody, but also know that it's okay to take time to focus on yourself and learn who you are as a person without your family always there. So that's basically an overview of the different changes from moving to California to getting married to switching my major to switching roommates a couple times. But throughout it all, Dr. Park, all I could say is I trusted the process. And was it easy? Absolutely not. But it was an amazing choice that I made for myself, and I'll always be super proud of myself for that because it wasn't easy, but it's got me to where I am now. And like we had said, I think I have planted seeds in different areas, and it's been really nice to see that and live through that. So, yeah.
And I'm hearing too that like you've set such a powerful example in your family that you now have the ironic challenge of saying to the people coming up behind you, namely your siblings right now, just because you see my example doesn't mean you have to do what I did or
Yeah.
go where I went or
Yeah.
do it in the way that I did it, right? So that's the flip side of being an example. And I love that you give them that freedom and options.
Yeah.
As you were talking about this, I was reflecting on how hard that transition can be for so many of us of going from senior year of high school into freshman year of college. For those of us who do go to college, right? Not everybody
Yeah.
does. It's not a good fit for everyone, but
Mhm.
for those of us who go to college, especially if it involves having more distance from our family and the massive adjustment that most of us go through that, especially that first semester of freshman year. I mean, if someone was watching this and they're just really struggling in that first year, I'm sorry, the first semester of freshman year, what would you say, like, as an encouragement if they're in that place?
That's hard. Um, that's hard because, to be completely honest, I wish somebody would have said seek therapy.
Yeah,
And
you can say that. Say that.
yeah, um, because when it got offered to me freshman year, um, I don't know. I don't know if I've mentioned this or if I said it before we actually started recording that I didn't seek therapy till or start actually experiencing what therapy was until after um, till I actually got to undergrad. I had not ever gone to therapy before.
Mhm,
And when it got offered to me or suggested to me in my first semester of undergrad, it was the best choice because I had somebody to talk to who didn't know what my life was. Um, but they only knew what I had told them. And even just based on that, they were able to help me and let me know of a lot of the things I'm saying now, like just reminding me, like, well, you are that role model for your family, or your siblings, and you are helping them um, from a distance and just giving me all this like positive encouragement that I needed in the moment. Um, but at the same time, some people have really good roommates and some people do not. And they end up switching or whatever the case might be. Um, I didn't stay with my freshman year roommate. So the way it was at Vanguard is if you did, get along with them or wanted to continue to go to like the next semester or next grade with them, you could. But in my case, I didn't. So I think there are some people that like they do go to their roommates because they gain that good connection with them and it helps them through that first semester to like have somebody you live with that you really get along with. But for me, I didn't really talk to them and um not they weren't people that I continued to engage myself with. So therapy was what it was for me, like to have somebody I could talk to about the things I was feeling and what that transition was from high school to college, especially being so far from my family. Um, but some people, it's just having people that you meet, or maybe some people will just go home more often to be able to still be around family. But I think it's really different for everybody. And it really comes down to like what they need. Is it somebody to talk to? Is it just people to socialize with? Um, it just depends, really.
it depends, yeah, it depends on the person and what
Yeah.
like you said, what they need, what would be helpful to them.
Yeah.
I'm completely biased where I think therapy would benefit, every
Yeah.
freshman year, first semester student, but we don't live in a world where every freshman year, first semester student can have their own one-on-one therapist, right? So,
Exactly. Yeah.
um, So I love when students are able to access that. I
Yeah.
also know our counseling centers on college campuses are so overwhelmed, which
Yeah.
is, part of the reason why I created the anxiety program that we now have online. But yeah, it could be for some people a therapist, online program. It could be connecting with roommates,
Yeah.
making friends, sometimes an RA um,
Yeah.
if they live on campus. And sometimes, on campuses where there's fraternities or sororities, like they gain a
Yeah.
sense of, I think connection is the thing, right? They gain a sense of connection
Yeah.
with those people. But
Also going to, like, the events, which I love that they can be for even the off-campus students, because sometimes we would meet, like, people that'd be like, "Oh, yeah, like, I actually live off campus, like, not too far from here." But, like, for us at Vanguard, it was the chapels, or the, like, beginning school event. I forgot what it was called, but they have, like, the events that they constantly, do on campus to be able to bring the whole community together. Those are really helpful too, in my opinion, to feel like you belong to something and to not feel so like isolated or not welcomed. I think it's called Welcome Week actually now that I think about it. But it's nice because they're open to everybody, whether you live on campus or not, because there are some people that they don't want to live on campus and they sometimes feel like they haven't even started college because they still live, at home, but really they are in college now and they're not in high school. So going to events like that helps because you're able to meet other people, or even go on campus still and study or use the library and use all the resources. So that's always an option too, like attending those events and being involved in that and getting on the social media pages and stuff to follow, all those events that's happening.
yeah, yeah, those events are organized for a reason, right? And
Yeah,
it's because those of us who have worked on college campuses know how important that word is that you said, which is belonging.
yeah,
And it is so hard, I think, for most students to gain a sense of belonging on a campus and harder for some than others. But I love that advice of like, go to the events. And I like to say go to multiple because, like, yeah, you could go to an event and someone makes a weird comment and then you feel uncomfortable.
yeah,
Just try again. Like, there's different events with different stuff going on, different people, but it's just an opportunity to kind of embed yourself a little more in
yeah,
the campus community.
yeah, for sure. Um, I remember one of the events that I also really appreciated was they had the Hispanic, like I like the Hispanic Heritage Month. They had like a specific event. So I loved that there was culture, like different cultural events, like they had the Black Heritage, is it Black?
I think we
Oh
have Black Student Union.
yeah, but there was an actual event that they have, and it's like just to share with the university like what it means to be a part of that culture. And then they had the same thing for Hispanic Heritage Month, and those are really cool because when you don't feel like you belong to the university, well, you do belong to this specific culture. So it's nice to come to something that you maybe feel a little bit more related, like that relates more to you. So there's always something, and it might be different for every university, every college campus, but at Vanguard specifically, it was nice to have those different options of events we could go to. You just have to look for them. And like you said, like try again. If it didn't go well, like try another one. Cause there's some that are also like more intimate than other ones. There's some that are more bigger for like the whole university, and there's some that are just like little, classroom events. So you kind of just have to search and find so that way you do get like that better experience your first semester. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love when college campuses offer those cultural events, and sometimes events specific to other things too, right? Like an activity. What's it called when you play frisbee? Like ultimate
Yeah.
frisbee. I'm so ignorant. Okay, like a recreational sport, or your field of study. Like sometimes your major will have a pizza
Yeah.
party or an ice cream
Oh,
social, um, and going to events has been a way that for a lot of the young people I work with, that they have gained more of a sense of belonging.
yeah.
And it's also, you have to be willing, I think, to show up and feel awkward, feel uncomfortable, feel like you don't belong, and just go with it. And kind of, it really is getting outside your comfort zone. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I definitely had to do that.
Yeah.
But it worked out though.
Yeah, of course. Um, so you also mentioned moving out of state. And I know you got married right there at the end of senior year.
Yes.
Did you also move out of state while you were in undergrad, or was this like after undergrad?
After undergrad. Let me think about time really quick. 1 second. I know that we were doing that earlier too.
I know everything around COVID, I'm just like, it's just
It's a
so,
lot.
it's a memory blur. Yeah.
Um, okay, let me think. When did I graduate? Oh, I should just look at my cap, huh?
Yeah.
2022. So I graduated undergrad 2022. We got married in 2021. So we were together for about a year, or married for about a year. And then I took, I want to say 6 months to a year off. Um, and then I started my grad program um, at California Baptist University in 2023. Um, but since my husband's military, we kind of knew that we were possibly going to be moving because his contract with the job he had in California was going to be up. And so that was another reason I was kind of hesitant of where to go to my grad program, where to do my grad program at, and what school, because I was like, well, I can do online, which I had been doing with Vanguard because of COVID. So I was like, I know I'd be fine doing that. But I really, really liked my in person experience at Vanguard. So I was like, well, if I do it at CBU, I can just start the process of signing up and stuff. And if we stay here in California, then I'll go in person because it was only like 35 minutes away from where I was living. So it was much closer than my drive to Vanguard. So I was like, I could do that, no problem. Um, but I was like, I can do the online program, which I made sure that they offered that so that if we do move, then I can just continue with school at the same time. So about 6 months, I think about 6 months, roughly 6 months to a year into my grad program, my husband tells me that we're moving and we're moving halfway across the country
Oh.
to Texas.
Hmm.
And it was another trust the process moment. And I think all the times in undergrad prepared me for this because it has been the hardest change up to now. Because one thing was moving 4 hours away from my family, and now we're moving across the country. Now we're in a different time zone. So that was a struggle. And I didn't know anybody here in Texas. Um, and I was in the grad program. Um, I was already in my first semester of grad and had never been to CBU, had never met any of my colleagues. So this time it was a little different because I'm not going from high school to undergrad where I could go to events. um, I'm not going to move in with a roommate that I can connect with. This time it was really me just following my heart and knowing and reminding myself of everything that I felt when I switched from biology to psychology and being like, if this is really something I want to do, then I need to make sure I'm focused. And I remind myself on a daily basis that this is what I want to do. So I need to finish my education and I need to do this master's program no matter what. And I literally we ended up driving from California here and it took us 4 days
Mm.
and we took different stops. And it was an amazing experience with our two doggies. Um, but I was also doing homework throughout that, um, like assignments that had to be turned in. And then,
Are you saying you were doing homework during the 4 days of travel?
yeah,
Oh gosh.
yeah, like in the car. um, and having to also be like, I just moved out of my home. I just moved away from everybody, like processing all of these feelings while still like keeping my mindset on, okay, you have to stay focused. Like, this is what you want. Like, this is, we have to continue. You have to continue. And once we got here, and because we're military, they ship all our stuff here, but we have to wait for our stuff for about 3 to 4 weeks. So we're living in an empty apartment with like nothing. And I'm on an air mattress doing homework.
Oh my goodness. You were camping
So
in your own home.
I was camping and we're just waiting till our stuff gets here. But school didn't stop. Like I had to keep going. I had to remind myself like what my goals were on a daily basis. But thankfully I had my husband to support me and my family even from a distance was supporting me. But it's come with a lot of challenges. Thankfully now I love it here, but to be honest, at first I absolutely hated it. At first I was like, "Why am I here?" Because I was away from family and I a lot of the time was like, "This is not fair. Like, this is not what I wanted." But I had to trust the process. I really did. And yeah, now I am in Texas and I just graduated from my grad program. So it all worked out. Um, and I was able to go see CBU for the first time, which was nice. And it was cool to see some of my colleagues that I would see like online in our Zoom calls in person for the first time.
Wait a minute. Are you saying the first time you went to the campus
Was my
was for
graduation.
graduation?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Which
Yeah.
was that last week?
Yeah.
So the first time you saw your grad school campus was for graduation last week when you okay. Wow. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Yeah, it was definitely, very different. Um, me and my husband and my family spent like a whole week, well, a couple days in California, then we went, back to Las Vegas. But the time we ended up going to CBU, to the campus, the day before my graduation, because I wanted to get my stole. And my husband goes crazy at the campus store. He's like, "You need everything alumni."
You need
So,
the mug that says I'm a CBU grandma. You need the
like, everything.
all the merch.
Yes, but and I was like, "Okay," and I got a whole bunch of different things, but afterwards, I was like, "You know what? I did that." Like, I did go to CBU, and I actually did CBU in a whole different state, and it's a proud moment to be a CBU alumni, like, as much as it's a proud moment to be a Vanguard alumni, like, knowing that I did achieve it and having that merch to remind me of that. Um, but yeah, that was the first time. And the day of my ceremony, there was the grad line to go into the like the bottom area before you actually go into the auditorium. And everybody like had their clicks. And I'm just
Wow.
standing there like, I don't know anybody. And my family was still kind of like near me and I text my husband and I was like, "Can you come stand next to me because I don't know anybody?" Because I got pretty
Oh,
anxious
yeah.
because I was like, wow, like undergrad, it was like we knew every like I knew everybody. So it was such a proud moment to all of us be gathered together. And this time I was very nervous. And I got to see a couple. I didn't talk to anybody, even if I saw them online, but I did see them from a distance. And what's interesting is once my husband did leave and they went to go sit down, um, I think I had fixed the person in front of me, her hood was messed up. So I fixed it for her. And then we introduced ourselves, and she was like, I've never been here either. This is my first time on
Oh,
campus. And that was really nice to hear because I don't remember her name now, to be honest, but like to know that I'm not the only one. And I think that's very important for any teenager or college student to remind themselves of is you're not alone. Like there are other people who are experiencing the same thing as you or something similar, and they're feeling those same feelings as you are. And that was a moment that reminded me of that oh, this is your first time here too, and you probably are feeling anxious like I am. Like, how about we talk about that and get through this together? And so that was really nice to have that moment with her and just be reminded like this is both of our accomplishments and let's graduate together and um we're not alone. So that was really nice to experience.
yeah. I I'm so glad you found a companion who
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
graduation was their first time visiting campus, and you can help
Yeah.
each other, like, fix the awkward regalia or whatever it's called, through the hood, and no one knows how to do that stuff. But I'm so glad that you found her, and I think it's a beautiful example of even just finding one person so that we know we're not alone
One person, yeah.
is so powerful, and is in part why we do these YouTube conversations, right? Because even if it's on YouTube, like, the power of sharing your story in this way is that other people who go through, of course, not the exact same thing, but something similar, you're helping them see that they're not alone, and you're giving them hope in the
Yeah,
midst of that.
yeah. It's good to receive. Um, to me, it's like a little, kind of like an angel. To me, it's like, somebody that God's like, here you go. Like somebody you could talk to, somebody that relates to you. Because if I would have never fixed her hood, I would have never had that experience with her or that interaction. So that was really good to kind of just get this feeling in my heart like, oh, I need to help her. Like, she's probably not going to know that her hood's messed up and know that out of all people, she'd never been there either. And we were feeling the same thing. So it was nice to get to know her a little bit and be reminded that I'm not alone. Like, we're going through it together.
Yeah, you're not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And okay, so this is like, I feel like I'm catching you in this conversation, like right at this pivotal moment, because graduation was last week.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, like, I'm trying not to ask the questions that people hate, but like, just, I'm trying, like, what comes next? Like, I don't expect you to have a plan. I don't expect that everything is beautiful. I'm just wondering, like, where are you at in the process now that you've graduated?
Yeah. Yeah, I've been asked that a lot recently. And since I just graduated last week, my answer has changed a lot since last week. And I can't guarantee you that my answer won't be different next week.
That's
um,
great.
yeah, it's the stuff that I've had to go through undergrad and my grad program has been so draining and so much commitment that um and moving here that I don't really know what comes next. I have this idea, which I can share what my idea is, but I'm kind of, I could share what it is, but at the same time, when I was sharing this with my family this past week, of when they were all asking me the same question, I did think like, "Well, I hope I don't let you down if it."
Mm. So circling back to that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
um, because it could change. And with what I did say, which I'll share with you right now, there was family members that were like, "No, like, you're not ready for that." And it was hard to be like, "Well, I think I am ready for that." So, me and my husband want to have, kids soon. That is what comes next. But there are specific family members that are like, "No, like, what?" And it's hard to think about that and not be a little fearful of, "Well, are they right? Like, is there something that I'm missing?" And for my family members, my mom specifically, she's always been like, "Just get your degree, okay? And then you can go and have kids. Like, just make sure you get through it." And I am grateful as she said that because it was much easier, I think, because I had some colleagues through grad program, um, that were having like, that had kids, like toddlers or even older kids, and were also doing the grad program, and if I was struggling, I can only imagine being a parent at the same time, so I'm really glad that I didn't, and my husband's also, being in the military, like, not really having time to be home with me, like, it would be more of like a single mom type parenting for a while, so we did, um, hold off for that reason, but I actually put it on my vision board this year that I wanted to have our first baby. Um, but as as the months have gone on, the past couple months, I got a little scared and decided to hold off because I was reminded that I want to take the next couple months now that I'm not in school to focus on myself and the aspect of my own mental health. And I've been reminded of that having my own clients now and being more in the therapy field that if I'm telling other people to focus on their mental health, then why am I not doing it myself? And there are like some trauma healing in my own personal trauma that I need to focus on. So since I graduated last week, but I've really been done for like about a month or two of the homework and stuff that comes with it. So I've been focusing a lot more on my own mental health and the aspect of self care and just like daily reading or, um, going on more walks, like really anything self care and going to my own therapy sessions for myself and just making sure that it's never the right time to have a child. And I totally agree with that. There's never going to be a right time. You're never going to feel 100% ready. But, and even financially, I don't think I'll ever be 100% ready. But I think if I can just feel that I love myself enough to then love my child, then I'll know and I'll be ready to do that. But because I've been so focused and committed to my school, I haven't given myself the time that I deserve. So that's what I'm going to be doing the next couple months, and um, then try to have a baby. But I have also spoken about going for my PhD. Um,
Didn't know that.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, but that's not going to come anytime soon. Um, so that's looking in like maybe 4 years because um, as of now, my husband's gonna give me his GI Bill to do my PhD, and I was supposed to get it for my master's, but it can only be given during a um, reenlistment process. And my husband just reenlisted, and he had asked me if I wanted it, but the thing is, if he gives it to me, he can't get it back. So once it's transferred to like a spouse or a family member, it can't be given back. And so when he asked me, I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. And so I kind of like freaked out and I didn't want to accept it in that moment. So when I told him recently, like, hey, I think I do want to go, but there's no rush because now, with my master's, once I get my hours for LPC, I can already start my own practice, so I don't need my PhD. I actually want to go for the PsycD, which I don't know what you probably know more of like what the difference is.
PsyD, yeah. That's the
Yes,
one I
yeah.
have.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because
Mhm,
the PhD one I heard is more research, and based on my
mhm.
biology background, I don't think I want to do
Not a lot of dolphins when you get the yeah.
that. Yeah, so that's the one I want to go for, but I have to wait until my husband can transfer it over to me, which is gonna be, I think he has to re-enlist in like another 4 years. So that actually works out because by then, if we do have babies by then, they'll be maybe around 4 or 5, maybe 3, I don't know. But I'm hoping that my practice will kind of start up by then to where my goal is, and this is long term. I don't know if this is how it's going to play out, but I'm hoping I kind of have a team to where I can maybe step away for a little bit to have time to do my PhD, so that way like it's not affecting me so much. But that's kind of the picture of 5 years from now I have. um, but I do wanna go back just because 'cause I'm like, I already have my master's, and I am the first one in my family to get their master's or even go to college, and I recently it's not about this percentage, but I was really surprised when I saw this the other day that only 8% of Latinos in the United States get their master's. Only 1% of Hispanics in the United States get their PhD. And I was like,
Gosh.
would that not be cool to be that
Would
1%?
that not be cool? I like that. Would that not be cool?
Would that not be cool?
Oh my
So, yeah,
goodness.
yeah.
Well, I'm excited for you regardless of what you decide,
Thank
and, in asking about what comes next, I'm in no way I don't know, I just feel like kind of just really explaining, like, I'm not asking that to put any pressure, I have 0
Yeah.
expectations. If you told me, like, "Oh, what comes next is that I need a break and I'm gonna sit on my sofa and play video games for 6 months," I'd be like, "I
Do
love
that.
that, I really hope you get a break and that you have rest and lots of Doritos." Um, so, yeah, I mean, I'm just asking that because I'm excited for you and curious and wanna
Thank
cheer you
you.
on regardless of what you're thinking about, and these are always just ideas, right? So when it's right after graduation and everyone's asking you that question, or whether it's 10 or 20 years in the future, when we talk to people about what we have in mind for the future, like, it's just ideas. None of us
Yeah.
know the
What it
future,
really
and yeah, it's not like we're making a promise, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you and I talked next week and you're like, I've changed my mind and I think I'm going to go in this direction, I'd be like, that's awesome. Like, I'm cheering you on.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for you with this idea of having kids and taking time to prioritize your mental health, and the idea of a PhD. And all of those are exciting ideas. We'll just see what happens, to be continued, right?
Yeah. Thank you. And one question, because you have your PsyD, do you still say PhD? Like, "I have my PhD," or do you say, "I have my PsyD?"
So I find that no one cares, but
Okay.
so I don't really say anything, but um yeah, I don't tend to say anything, but I say I'm a psychologist. Like, that's what makes
Oh,
sense to
okay.
people in the public, because I'll say I work as a psychologist.
Okay.
And then no one really knows like PhD versus PsyD. That's very like inside baseball, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I didn't even know what that was until I did my research, and I was like, "Oh, there's an option there on which one."
Yeah. So when I'm just, in conversation with people and they ask what I do, I say I work as a psychologist.
Mm.
Um, And then if someone asks me what degree I have, I say, "Oh, I have a doctorate."
Oh.
Um, but it's only really inside baseball, like psychology people who wanna know, is it a
Which
PhD or a PsyD? Yeah. So
okay.
PhD is much more research focused, PsyD is clinical. Um, PsyDs can do research as well, but we do primarily clinical work like therapy or assessment, supervision, consultation, teaching, or research. And PhDs can do all of that as well, but they tend to have a heavier research emphasis.
Mm, thank you.
Yeah,
I was
what a
wondering.
spiel.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have questions going forward, we can always connect and talk more about that too.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I have a final question that I usually ask people as we're wrapping up these conversations. But before I ask you my closing question, is there anything else that you want to share or that you want to ask for this?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So, my closing question is always, what do you wish you knew when you were younger?
Ooh, I wish I knew when I was about therapy.
Oh, you wish you knew about therapy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Period.
Say
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. Um, I wish yeah, I just wish that I had that as an option. Um, I would say it's also on me for feeling that I wasn't supposed to like go to my parents or go to any family members to tell them how I was feeling because I didn't know that my mom had seek therapy herself. So if I would have maybe um told her and expressed to her how I was feeling, she probably would have um, sent me to therapy or gave me that as an option. But because I just felt like I had to seclude myself and I had to not express it, that was never an option for me. So I didn't even know what therapy was like at all. Like I did not know what this even consisted of until undergrad. So I really wish that that's something that I would have been given at a younger age, so that way I could have maybe kind of focused on my mental health at a younger age than wanting to do it now. Um, because now that I'm older, it's like I'm having to focus in therapy on what my childhood was and my present life and my future. And if I would have done it at a younger age, I think it would have been more related to, like, maybe the stuff I went through a couple years before that and then the present, but at the age that I would have loved therapy, like, even played therapy at maybe 5 or 6, I don't think we would have been talking about college. I don't think we would have been talking about having kids, like, it would have given me the opportunity at a younger age to talk about just how, why I was raised the way I was raised, why I was put in these situations. But I kind of bottled all that up and didn't get the opportunity to talk to anybody about it until I was already a young adult. So I would have just loved to be given that opportunity. But that's a big reason why I do what I do now so that I can be that for kids. So that's exactly why. So that way, when I do have kids come to the office, and I do talk to them, I can be that person for them and let them talk about what they did yesterday, at recess, or maybe if they have any questions about why they grew up the way they grew up, and just kind of helping them through that process of gaining some clarity. So yeah, yeah.
Well, Bianca, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for
Thank you.
everything you shared with us. And it's just been such an honor to connect with you and
Thank
witness your
you.
story.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I appreciate how generous Bianca was in sharing her story with us, how open she was about the struggles in the midst of all of these changes she's gone through in these past years, and also how she was able to kind of dig deep and find that ability to trust the process. So, thank you, Bianca. I do appreciate you. And anyone who's watching this, as a reminder, if you are struggling with anxiety as you go through changes in life, if you're even struggling to trust the process, we do have our signature anxiety program that can help you. So be sure to check out that link in the description in the pinned comment below and trust the process.